Hi everybody, I hope you're ready for our story today. Last week we learnt all about the amazing power of Jesus and how he's brought our church together. His plan for us is so amazing. This week we're going to hear about a story set by the sea. The storm that stopped. Here's Jesus. One day long ago, he was teaching people by the sea. Soon, more people arrived, and more people arrived, until there were people everywhere. We can't hear back here. Be quiet. I can't see. Give me some room. Have you ever been somewhere like that? Somewhere so exciting that people are just hustling and bustling to see what's going on? Well, this was just like it. The crowds were just too big. No one could see Jesus, and nobody could hear Jesus. So Jesus had a plan. Can you see? There we go. Jesus asked his friends, the disciples, to push their boat out onto the water. He sat in the boat, and the huge crowd spread out along the beach. Now they could all see and hear Jesus as he told them stories all about God. When he finished teaching the people, Jesus said to his friends, "Let's go over to the other side of the sea." Here we go. Jesus had finished teaching the crowd, and now he had something to teach his friends. But they didn't even know it yet. So they all jumped in the boat with him and they set sail across the sea. Can you see that? Oh, well, looks like somebody's fallen asleep. Do you know who that is? Jesus was so tired. He'd been teaching the people all day. So he lay down in the back of the boat. And yeah, you guessed it, he fell fast asleep. It was a quiet evening. The water gently lapped against the boat, and the sun slowly started to set in the sky. Jesus was sleeping deeply. The disciples were quietly talking when all of a sudden, oh dear, they were in the middle of the biggest, loudest, scariest, most ginormous storm you could even imagine. And look what's happening here. Should we zoom in a bit? Jesus was deeply in asleep. He was snoozing and snoring. Oh, he was so asleep. Well, the wind blew hard. In fact, the waves grew huge and the water started to pour into the boat. But Jesus was still asleep. Oh. The wind blew harder, the waves grew huger, the water filled the boat, but Jesus was still asleep. Jesus, wake up! Wake up! Don't you care about us? We're drowning! What a silly thing to say to Jesus. Of course he cared. He loved his friends so much that one day he was going to die for them. I love this page. Jesus stood up in the boat. The wind was still blowing. Windometer, yeah, reaching high alert. The waves were bigger than ever. Yeah, they're kind of right up there, aren't they? In fact, the sinker-meter was looking pretty bad as well, because the water was pouring into the boat quicker than the disciples could tip it out again. The boat was sinking. But then Jesus did something amazing. He didn't help his friends pour the water out of the boat. He didn't even help them try to row back to land. Jesus simply spoke, you guessed it. But he didn't speak to the disciples. Who did he speak to? Why don't you pause the video and tell somebody in your family or a friend who you think he spoke to? He spoke to the storm, yeah, and to the wind, and to the waves. Have you ever spoken to the wind and the waves and the sea? But this is God. Quiet, be still, Jesus said. Just 3 little words, and the storm stopped. Right away at that very moment, the sea was quiet, still, and calm. Look at their faces. Why are you so afraid? Do you still not trust me? Said Jesus as he looked at his friends. But they were terrified. And they asked each other, can you say these words together? Imagine you're the disciples. Who is this? Even the waves and the wind do what he says. This is what Jesus wanted to teach his friends. He wanted them to know who he really is. The disciples already had lots of head knowledge. They knew a lot about God from the Bible. They knew that God made everything. He made the world and everything in it. He made the sea and the wind as well. They knew that only God can tell the sea what to do, that only God can tell the wind when to blow or the waves when to crash. Only God can do these things. But the disciples had just seen Jesus do the exact same things God can do. So, what is the answer to their question? Who is Jesus? Why don't you pause the video now, and why don't you chat about who you think Jesus really is? Well, of course, Jesus is God. How do we know about the storm that stopped our story today? Well, it comes from the book of Mark in the Bible. And at the end of this true story, the disciples asked each other, who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. So who do you say Jesus is? It's really good, isn't it, to think for ourselves about who Jesus is. And what an amazing place to start this story where Jesus, the Son of God, commands even the wind and the waves to stop. So how much more must he care for you and what's going on in your life? I hope you enjoyed the story, The Storm That Stopped.